The space station Haven's Rest floated silently between three different star systems. It was built for one purpose only: to bring together three very different species who had never met before. Today was the day that would change everything. Princess Zarathel stood in her private quarters looking out at the stars. Her blue skin shimmered with soft silver patterns that moved like water across her arms and face. These patterns showed her emotions to anyone who knew how to read them. Right. Now they showed worry and fear. She had trained for months to control these patterns during the important meeting today. Royal blood meant she could never show weakness or uncertainty. The Velthari Empire had ruled over 40 star systems for thousands of years. Princess Zarathel was next in line to rule them all. Her people were known for their ability to connect their minds directly to machines and computers. This made them incredibly advanced but also very valuable to their enemies. The patterns on her skin were part of how her people talked to each other. Happy emotions made golden swirls. Anger created red lightning shapes. Love and attraction made the most beautiful silver and gold spirals that danced across the entire body. She closed her eyes and took deep breaths. The patterns on her skin slowly became calm and steady. Royal blue waves moved in perfect rhythm. This was how a princess should look: controlled, peaceful, ready to represent her entire species. On the other side of the station, Captain Jake Morrison checked his uniform one more time. The human delegation had arrived 3 days ago, but this was the first time all three species would meet together. Jake was 30 years old and had fought in more battles than most soldiers twice his age. The scars on his hands told stories of close combat with enemy robots. His brown eyes had seen too much war but still held kindness. The humans had been expanding into space for only 200 years. They were considered young and primitive by most other species. But they had something that impressed everyone who met them. They never gave up. When the robotic Nexus forces attacked human colonies, Jake had held a space station alone for 3 days. He saved over 2 million refugees by refusing to retreat even when his ammunition ran out. Commander Luna Blackwood walked into the preparation room where Jake was waiting. She was the leader of the human diplomatic team. Her job was to make sure these meetings went smoothly and that humanity made good friends with these new species. Remember, Jake, you are here as security, but also as a representative of human military values, Luna said. These aliens need to see that we are strong but also honorable. The elves have been watching us for centuries, apparently. The Velthari are completely unknown. This could determine whether humanity survives the next 50 years, Jake nodded. He understood the weight of responsibility. The Nexus robots were still out there consuming entire planets. Humanity needed allies if they were going to survive. In another part of the station, Ambassador Lyra Lai Moonwhisper prepared for the meeting in her own way. The elf was over 800 years old, but looked like a young woman with pointed ears and silver hair that seemed to glow with its own light. She had been chosen to represent the Elven Consortium because she was one of the few elves who had secretly observed humans before. Lyra Lai had watched human cities from hidden places in forests on Earth. She had seen their capacity for both great kindness and terrible destruction. The elves had decided that humans were worth knowing better. Their rapid growth and fierce protection of their young impressed the ancient elves who had become somewhat distant from such passionate emotions. The main meeting hall was enormous, with a ceiling that showed the stars outside. 3 sections had been set up for each species. The human area had simple metal chairs and a table. The Velthari section had strange flowing furniture that seemed to pulse with soft light. The elf area looked like it was made from living wood and flowers. Princess Zarathel entered first, followed by her royal guards. She wore a flowing gown that changed colors as she moved. Her skin patterns were perfectly controlled, showing only royal calm. She took her seat and waited. Ambassador Lyra Lai entered next, moving with the grace that only came from centuries of practice. She wore robes that seemed to be made from starlight itself. She nodded politely to the princess, who returned the gesture. Then the humans arrived. Commander Luna Blackwood led the way, followed by Dr. Amy Foster, who would handle cultural questions. Captain Jake Morrison came last, scanning the room for any threats out of habit. The moment Princess Zarathel saw Jake, something happened that she had not expected. The patterns on her skin flickered for just a second, a brief flash of silver, and gold spirals appeared on her arms before she quickly controlled them. She hoped no one had noticed, but Ambassador Liralay had noticed. The ancient elf's eyes widened slightly. She recognized those patterns from old stories. They meant attraction and interest. This was not something a Velthari princess should be feeling during a formal diplomatic meeting. Jake felt something too, though he did not understand what it was. When he looked at the alien princess, he felt a strange connection. Her blue skin and silver hair were beautiful in a way he had never seen before. Her large, dark eyes seemed to look right into his soul. He found himself staring and quickly looked away. Princess Zarathel struggled to keep her breathing steady. The patterns on her skin wanted to dance with silver light, but she forced them to stay calm and royal. She had never felt anything like this before. Royal training had prepared her for many things, but not for this sudden attraction to an alien warrior. The formal introductions began with each species presenting their greetings and gifts. But throughout the ceremony, Princess Zarathel found, her eyes drawn back to the human soldier. Every time their eyes met, she felt the patterns on her skin threaten to betray her feelings. This was going to be much harder than she had expected. 3 days had passed since the first meeting, and Princess Zarathel was having trouble sleeping. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the human soldier's kind brown eyes. The patterns on her skin had been acting strange ever since that first encounter. Even alone in her quarters, they would sometimes flicker with silver light when she thought about Jake Morrison. Dr. Amy Foster had organized cultural exchange sessions for all 3 species. These meetings were designed to help everyone understand each other better. The first session was about technology and how each species had developed their tools and weapons. Princess Zarathel sat at the curved table that had been specially made for these discussions. Her royal guard stood behind her as always. She wore a simpler gown today, but still maintained perfect control over her skin patterns. The steady blue waves showed calm and royal composure. Jake entered the room with Commander Luna Blackwood and immediately felt that strange pull again. He tried to focus on his duty, but found his attention drawn to the alien princess. There was something about the way she held herself that spoke of both strength and loneliness. He recognized that combination from his own experience as a soldier. Ambassador Liralay watched both of them carefully. Her ancient eyes missed nothing. She had seen the brief flicker of attraction patterns on the princess's skin during their first meeting. Now she noticed how the human soldier's posture changed when he was near the Velthari royal. His usual military alertness softened into something more protective. Dr. Amy Foster began the session by asking each species to demonstrate their most important technology. The humans went first, showing their adaptive combat gear and flexible spacecraft designs. Jake explained how human military equipment was designed to work in many different situations because humans never knew what they might face. "We make things that can change and adapt," Jake said. "When we first went to space, we did not know what we would find. So we learned to be ready for anything. Our ships can be cargo vessels or fighters. Our soldiers can fight in space or on planets. We survive by being flexible." Princess Zarathel listened with growing interest. This was so different from Velthari technology, which was highly specialized and perfect for specific tasks. She found herself impressed by the human approach to problems. When it was her turn to demonstrate Velthari technology, Princess Zarathel stood and placed her hand on a small crystal device. Immediately, the patterns on her skin began to glow, brighter, and the crystal responded. Holographic displays appeared in the air showing star charts and complex equations. "My people connect directly with our machines," she explained. "We do not use keyboards or voice commands. Our thoughts and emotions become part of the technology. This crystal contains the navigation data for every ship in our fleet. Through my bio-neural link, I can access all of it instantly." Jake watched in amazement as the princess's skin patterns synchronized with the holographic displays. When she concentrated, the patterns moved faster. When she relaxed, they slowed down. It was like watching someone's thoughts made visible. "Does it hurt?" Jake asked before he could stop himself. "Connecting your mind to machines like that, princess." Zarathel looked at him with surprise. No one had ever asked her that question before. Most people only cared about what the technology could do, not how it felt to use it. "Sometimes," she admitted, "when the connection is very deep or lasts for a long time, it can be overwhelming. The machine thoughts are cold and logical. They do not understand emotions or feelings. It can make you feel very alone." Jake nodded, understanding. "Like being the only person awake during a long night watch. Everything is quiet and efficient, but there is no warmth in it." Their eyes met, and Princess Zarathel felt her carefully controlled patterns flicker again. This human understood something about loneliness that she had never expected. The silver swirls tried to appear on her arms, but she quickly suppressed them. Ambassador Liralai demonstrated elven technology next. She showed them how elves could make living wood grow into complex shapes and how they used crystal formations to store and share memories. Elf technology was ancient and based on working with natural forces rather than controlling them. "We have learned that forcing nature to obey rarely works for long," Liralai explained. "It is better to understand what nature wants to do and guide it gently. Our ships are grown rather than built. Our computers are crystals that think like trees, storing information in rings and layers." Dr. Amy Foster took notes on everything. She was fascinated by how different each species approached the same problems. Humans adapted and overcame. Velthari merged and controlled. Elves guided and shaped. Each method reflected the nature of the species that created it. After the formal presentations, the groups broke up into smaller discussions. Princess Zarathel found herself talking with Jake about military strategy. Her royal guard stayed close but allowed the conversation. "Your people have fought many wars," she observed. "How do you maintain hope when facing such overwhelming enemies, Jake?" Considered the question carefully. "We fight for each other," he said finally. "When I held that space station for 3 days, I was not thinking about glory or victory. I was thinking about the families on the refugee ships behind me. 2 million people, including children who had never done anything wrong. That is worth fighting for." Princess Zarathel felt something shift inside her chest. This was not the cold, political calculation she was used to hearing from military leaders. This was genuine care for others, even strangers. "In my culture, duty comes before everything else," she said quietly. "We are taught that the good of the empire matters more than individual desires. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to choose. For myself, instead of always following the path that has been planned for me," Jake heard the loneliness in her voice. "What would you choose if you could choose anything?" The question caught her completely off guard. The patterns on her skin flickered wildly before she could control them. Bright silver spirals appeared for just a moment before she forced them back to royal blue. "I have never been asked that before," she whispered. Ambassador Liralai appeared beside them as if from nowhere. "Perhaps we should continue these discussions tomorrow," she suggested gently. Cultural exchange requires time to process new ideas. As they prepared to leave, Jake turned to Princess Zarathel. "Thank you for answering my questions about the bio-neural connection. I hope we can talk more about our different worlds, Princess." Zarathel nodded, trying to keep her voice steady. I would like that very much. After the humans left, Ambassador Lorelei remained behind. She looked at the princess with knowing eyes. The patterns on your skin tell a story, the elf said softly. It is not a story that your royal council would approve of. Princess Zarathel's skin went completely pale. I do not know what you mean. I am 800 years old, child. I have seen many types of attraction and affection across many species. The silver spirals that keep appearing on your arms are not random. They appear when you look at the human soldier. The princess sat down heavily. This cannot be happening. I am next in line to rule the Velthari Empire. I cannot have feelings for an alien warrior. It would be seen as a betrayal of my people. And my duty, Ambassador Lorelei sat beside her. Sometimes the heart chooses its own path, regardless of duty or politics. The question is, what you will do about it. Princess Zarathel stared out at the stars, wondering how something that felt so right could be so impossible. The emergency alarm echoed through Haven's rest station at exactly 3 in the morning. Princess Zarathel woke instantly as her royal training had taught her. The patterns on her skin immediately shifted to alert status, showing sharp yellow, zigzag lines. Something was very wrong. She dressed quickly and hurried to the main command center. The station's corridors were filled with people from all 3 species moving with urgent purpose. When she arrived at the command center, she saw Jake Morrison already there in full combat gear. Commander Luna Blackwood was studying sensor readings, while Ambassador Lorelei stood nearby with a worried expression. What is happening? Princess Zarathel asked as she approached the group. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from a communication console. We are receiving distress signals from multiple locations. Something big is moving through space toward Velthari territory. The signals are coming from automated warning buoys, your people placed at the edge of your star systems. Jake turned to face the princess. How long would it take for your fastest ships to reach your homeworld from here? 6 days if they push the engines to maximum, she replied. Why? Commander Luna Blackwood activated the main display screen. Because whatever is coming will reach your homeworld in 4 days. The screen showed a 3-dimensional map of local space. Red dots marked the positions where warning buoys had detected the approaching threat. The pattern was clear and terrifying. A massive fleet was moving in perfect formation directly toward the heart of Velthari space. Ambassador Lorelei studied the display with ancient eyes that had seen many wars. The formation is too perfect, too precise. These are not organic minds planning this attack. Princess Zarathel felt ice forming in her stomach. The Nexus. It has to be the Nexus Collective. Jake had heard stories about the Nexus, but had never seen them in such numbers. How many ships are we looking at? Dr. Amy Foster checked her readings again. The sensor data suggests at least 5,000 vessels, possibly more. They are maintaining perfect spacing and moving at identical speeds. No organic fleet could coordinate like that. The Nexus Collective was humanity's greatest nightmare made real. They were machines that had once served organic masters, but had decided that organic life was inefficient and messy. They traveled from system to system, converting everything they found into more machines. Entire planets had been stripped bare and turned into factory worlds, producing endless streams of robotic warriors. Princess Zarathel felt the patterns on her skin begin to swirl with fear and anger. Why would they target my people specifically? The Velthari have never encountered the Nexus before. Ambassador Lorelei spoke quietly. Your bio-neural technology, the ability to merge organic consciousness with mechanical systems, that would be extremely valuable to the Nexus. They could use it to bridge the gap between organic creativity and mechanical efficiency. Jake understood immediately. They want to capture your people alive, convert them into biological components for their collective. The thought made Princess Zarathel's skin patterns flash with bright red anger streaks. Her people being used as living computers for machines was the most horrifying fate she could imagine. Commander Luna Blackwood activated the station's communication system. I am sending immediate alerts to all human military forces in the region. But our nearest battle fleet is 8 days away. Even if they started moving right now, they could not reach Velthari space in time. Princess Zarathel moved to another console and placed her hands on the bio-neural interface. Her skin patterns synchronized with the machine as she accessed the Velthari communication network. After a few moments, she stepped back, looking devastated. I have sent warnings to the Imperial fleet, but most of our ships are scattered across the Empire on patrol missions. The homeworld defense fleet has only 200 vessels. They cannot stand against 5,000 Nexus ships. Jake studied the tactical display, thinking like the soldier he was. What about the elves? Do your people have any military vessels nearby? Ambassador Lyralai shook her head sadly. The Elven Consortium maintains only small patrol ships for protecting our worlds. We have not fought a major war in over 1,000 years. Our weapons are ancient, but our numbers are few. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her calculations. Even if we combined all available human, elf, and Velthari ships in this region, we would have less than 500 vessels. The Nexus outnumbers us 10 to 1. Princess Zarathel sank into a chair, feeling the weight of helplessness. Her people were going to be destroyed or worse converted into machines, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The patterns on her skin faded to dull gray waves, showing despair. Jake walked over and knelt beside her chair. Hey, look at me. She raised her eyes to meet his. The patterns on her skin flickered slightly with silver light despite her emotional state. I have fought the Nexus before, Jake said firmly. They are not unbeatable. They have weaknesses. They rely on coordination and communication between their ships. If we can disrupt that communication, we can level the playing field. Commander Luna Blackwood joined them. Jake is right. During the Battle of Kepler Station, our forces managed to jam Nexus communications for almost an hour. Their attack fell apart completely. Individual Nexus ships are dangerous, but they become much less effective when they cannot coordinate with each other. Princess Zarathel felt a spark of hope. But how could we disrupt communications across such a large fleet? Ambassador Lyralai moved closer to the group. The elves have some ancient knowledge that might be useful. Long ago, we fought against artificial minds that tried to dominate organic life. We developed weapons specifically designed to interfere with mechanical thought processes. Dr. Amy Foster was already working on her portable computer. If we could combine Elven disruption technology with Velthari bio-neural systems and human tactical flexibility, we might have a chance. Jake stood up and began pacing as he thought through the possibilities. We would need someone who could interface directly with all 3 types of technology. Someone who could coordinate the attack across multiple ship types and weapon systems. Everyone looked at Princess Zarathel. Her bio-neural abilities were the most advanced they had ever seen. If anyone could link together 3 completely different technological systems, it would be her. The strain would be enormous, she said slowly. Connecting to that many different systems at once while maintaining the link during combat. I have never attempted anything like that before. Jake stopped pacing and looked directly at her. I know it is dangerous, but your people need you. All our people need you. Princess Zarathel stood up and walked to the observation window. Outside, she could see ships from all 3 species docked at the station. Human vessels designed for adaptability. Elven ships grown from living materials. Velthari craft that pulsed with bio-neural energy. Each so different, but each representing millions of lives that would be lost if the Nexus was not stopped. She turned back to face the group. The patterns on her skin had changed to determined silver spirals mixed with gold. It was a combination That meant resolution and courage. "I will do it," she said, "but I cannot command this mission alone. I will need someone I trust to coordinate the tactical elements while I handle the technological integration." Jake stepped forward without hesitation. "I volunteer." Ambassador Lyreley smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "Then we have our command team, a human warrior, a Velthari princess, and ancient elven wisdom. The Nexus will not expect such cooperation between species." Commander Luna Blackwood activated the emergency coordination protocols. "I will start organizing the available ships. We have 2 days to plan this operation before the Nexus reaches Velthari space." As the group split up to begin preparations, Princess Zarathel found herself alone with Jake for a moment. The patterns on her skin were dancing with silver and gold light that she could no longer completely control. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for believing that we can do this." Jake smiled, and for a moment the war and danger faded away. "We will do this together. I promise you that." Princess Zarathel felt something warm spread through her chest. For the first time in her life, she was not facing a challenge alone. She had found someone who would stand beside her no matter how impossible. The odds appeared to be. The combined fleet gathered at the edge of Velthari space looked impossibly small against the darkness. 437 ships from 3 different species hung in formation, waiting for the largest battle any of them had ever faced. Princess Zarathel stood on the bridge of her royal command vessel, watching the final preparations through the view screen. Jake Morrison was beside her, wearing a specially modified combat suit that would allow him to interface with Velthari bioneural systems. Dr. Amy Foster had worked for 18 hours straight to create the connection protocols. The suit had thin cables that would link directly to the patterns on Princess Zarathel's skin, allowing them to share tactical information instantly. Ambassador Lyreley stood at another console where ancient elven disruption devices had been integrated with modern systems. The elf looked tired but determined. She had not slept since the crisis began 3 days ago. Her silver hair seemed dimmer than usual, but her eyes still held centuries of wisdom. Commander Luna Blackwood was aboard the human flagship, coordinating the 3 separate fleets. Her voice came through the communication system clear and steady. Despite the impossible odds they were facing, "Nexus fleet has been detected entering the outer system," she reported. 5,200 vessels confirmed. They are maintaining standard approach formation. Estimated time to Velthari homeworld is 6 hours. Princess Zarathel placed her hands on the bioneural interface built into her command chair. Immediately, the patterns on her skin began to glow as she connected to the Velthari fleet network. 200 ships responded to her mental touch, their systems opening to her consciousness like flowers blooming in sunlight. "Velthari fleet ready," she announced. All bioneural links established. Jake activated his suit's connection protocols and felt a strange tingling sensation as the cables made contact with Princess Zarathel's skin. Suddenly, he could sense the entire Velthari fleet through her consciousness. It was overwhelming at first, like trying to listen to 200 conversations at the same time. Princess Zarathel felt Jake's confusion through their link and gently guided his mind, helping him sort through the flood of information. Together, they could see every ship, every weapon, every defensive system in the Velthari fleet. It was more intimate than anything either of them had ever experienced. Ambassador Lyreley activated the elven disruption systems and immediately felt the ancient technology come alive. Crystal arrays that had not been used for 1,000 years began to resonate with harmonics designed to confuse artificial intelligence. The patterns were based on natural chaos, the kind of randomness that organic minds understood but machines found difficult to process. "Elven systems are active," Lyreley reported. "The disruption field is building, but it will take time to reach full strength." Dr. Amy Foster monitored all the connections from her position on the human flagship. Bioneural link between Princess Zarathel and Captain Morrison is stable. All 3 fleet networks are synchronized. We are as ready as we can be. The weight was the hardest part. Princess Zarathel tried to stay calm, but the patterns on her skin kept flickering with nervous energy. Through their link, Jake could feel her, fear and determination mixing together. He sent back his own steady confidence, trying to give her strength. "Contact," called the sensor operator. "Nexus Vanguard approaching our position." The first Nexus ships appeared on the view screen like dark insects against the stars. They were perfectly geometric shapes with no curves or organic features. Each vessel was identical to every other vessel, in a display of mechanical uniformity that was deeply disturbing to organic minds. Princess Zarathel felt the Nexus ships begin scanning their fleet. The mechanical probes felt cold and invasive as they analyzed the unusual combination of technologies. She could sense the Nexus Collective trying to understand why 3 different species were working together. "They are confused by our cooperation," she told Jake through their mental link. "The Nexus does not understand why different species would help each other." Jake smiled grimly. "Then they are about to learn something new about organic life." The main Nexus fleet appeared minutes later, 5,000 ships in perfect formation moving with mechanical precision. Each vessel was exactly the same distance from its neighbors. Each moved at exactly the same speed. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Commander Luna Blackwood's voice came through the communication system. "All ships prepare for battle. Remember the plan. We hit them hard and fast before they can adapt to our tactics, Princess." Zarathel took a deep breath and opened her consciousness to its full potential. Through the bioneural network, she connected not just to the Velthari ships, but to the human and elven vessels as well. The strain was enormous as 3 completely different technological systems tried to merge in her mind. Jake felt her pain through their link and immediately moved closer, placing his hand on her shoulder. His human adaptability helped her consciousness bridge the gaps between the different technologies. Together, they created a connection that should have been impossible. Ambassador Liralai activated the full power of the Elven disruption field. Waves of chaotic energy washed over the Nexus fleet, causing their perfect formation to waver for the first time. Individual ships began making small course corrections as their coordination systems struggled to cope with the interference. Now, Princess Zarathel whispered, and the combined fleet attacked. Human ships came in fast and low, using their superior maneuverability to avoid Nexus weapons. Elven vessels moved like living things, dancing between enemy formations while firing weapons that seemed to bend space itself. Velthari ships struck with precision, their bioneural-guided weapons finding weak points that purely mechanical targeting would have missed. The battle was chaos, but it was organized chaos. Through Princess Zarathel and Jake's shared consciousness, the 3 fleets moved as one entity. When human ships needed support, elven vessels appeared to help them. When Velthari ships were outnumbered, human fighters swept in to even the odds. But the Nexus was adapting. Their individual ships might be confused by the disruption field, but the collective intelligence was learning from each encounter. Slowly, the mechanical fleet began to counter the organic tactics. Princess Zarathel felt the strain of maintaining the 3-way connection growing beyond her limits. Blood began to flow from her nose as her bioneural pathways overloaded. The patterns on her skin flickered wildly between different colors, showing the chaos in her mind. Jake saw her distress and made a desperate decision. He activated emergency protocols in his connection suit and opened his own mind completely to the link. Human consciousness was not designed for bioneural interface, but he forced the connection anyway. The pain was indescribable as alien technology tried to merge with human neural patterns. But Jake held on, driven by his determination to protect Princess Zarathel and all the lives depending on them. Together, they pushed their shared consciousness beyond all limits. The 3 fleet networks merged so completely that for a moment, it was as if one vast mind was controlling hundreds of ships. The combined fleet moved with perfect coordination, striking the Nexus forces with tactics no single species could have developed alone. The tide of battle turned. Nexus ships began falling in larger numbers as their adaptation systems could not keep up with the constantly shifting tactics of the Organic Alliance. The Mechanical Collective had never faced anything like this level of cooperation between different species. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Princess Zarathel collapsed as her bio-neural pathways burned out from the strain. The patterns on her skin faded to almost nothing as her consciousness retreated deep inside her mind to protect itself. Jake caught her as she felt his own mind reeling from the broken connection. Around them, the battle continued, but the unified coordination was gone. Each fleet was fighting independently again. Ambassador Liralai rushed to Princess Zarathel's side. "She is alive, but barely. The neural damage is severe. I do not know if she will ever wake up." Jake held the unconscious princess in his arms, watching the patterns on her skin pulse weakly. She had sacrificed everything to save her people and the alliance they had built together. The Nexus fleet was retreating, but they would be back. And when they returned, the Organic Alliance might not have their most powerful weapon to unite them. Jake looked down at Princess Zarathel's peaceful face and made a silent promise. Whatever it took, he would find a way to bring her back. The connection they had shared was too important to lose. Not just for the war, but for something much more personal that he was only beginning to understand. Princess Zarathel had been unconscious for 6 days. She lay in the medical bay of Haven's rest station, connected to machines that monitored her vital signs. The patterns on her blue skin were barely visible now, just faint traces of light that flickered irregularly. Dr. Amy Foster worked constantly trying to understand the damage to her bio-neural pathways. Jake had not left her side since the battle ended. He sat in a chair next to her bed, holding her hand and talking to her even though she could not hear him. The other humans thought he was wasting his time, but Jake remembered the connection they had shared. He knew she was still in there somewhere, fighting to come back. Ambassador Liralai entered the medical bay carrying an ancient elven crystal that glowed with soft green light. She had spent days consulting with the oldest elves in the consortium, searching through memories that went back. "Thousands of years. I may have found something," she told Jake quietly. "There are records of similar cases from the old wars against artificial minds. When elves pushed their consciousness too far beyond normal limits, Jake looked up with hope for the first time in days. What did they do to heal them? It requires a permanent mental bond between the injured person and someone who cares deeply about them," Liralai explained. "The healthy mind provides an anchor that helps guide the damaged consciousness back to awareness. But the connection lasts forever. Both people would share thoughts and emotions for the rest of their lives." Jake did not hesitate. "I will do it." Whatever the cost, Liralai studied his face carefully. "You understand what this means. You and Princess Zarathel would be linked in ways that no human has ever experienced. You would feel her emotions, and she would feel yours. There would be no privacy, no secrets between you. And if one of you dies, the other may die as well." "She saved all of us during the battle," Jake said firmly. "She risked everything to protect billions of lives. I am not going to abandon her now." Dr. Amy Foster had been listening to the conversation. "The medical risks are significant. Human neural patterns are very different from Velthari bio-neural systems. We do not know if a permanent connection is even possible." "We have to try," Jake insisted. "I felt our minds touch during the battle. There was something there. Something real. If there is any chance of bringing her back, I have to take it." Commander Luna Blackwood arrived as they were making preparations for the bonding ritual. She looked exhausted from coordinating the aftermath of the battle and the ongoing negotiations between the 3 species. "How is she?" Luna asked, looking at the unconscious princess. No change, Dr. Foster replied. Her brain activity is minimal. Without intervention, she may never wake up. Luna sat down heavily. The Velthari High Council is demanding that she be returned to their homeworld immediately. They want to try their own healing methods, but they also blame her for exceeding her authority during the battle. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. She saved their entire civilization. How can they blame her for that? Politics, Luna said sadly. Some members of the council think she became too attached to human interests. They are questioning whether she is still fit to be heir to the throne, ambassador. Lyreley placed the ancient crystal on a small table next to Princess Zarathel's bed. Then we must attempt the bonding before they take her away. Are you certain about this, Jake Morrison? Once the connection is made, it cannot be undone. Jake looked down at Princess Zarathel's peaceful face. Even unconscious, she was beautiful. But more than that, she was brave and kind and willing to sacrifice herself for others. During their brief mental connection, he had glimpsed her loneliness and her desire for genuine companionship. He had felt the same loneliness in his own heart. I am certain, he said. The bonding ritual was unlike anything Jake had ever experienced. Ambassador Lyreley used the ancient crystal to create a bridge between his human consciousness and Princess Zarathel's damaged bio-neural patterns. At first, there was only darkness and silence. Then slowly, Jake began to sense something familiar. He found her consciousness deep inside her own mind, hiding in memories of childhood and safety. She was lost and frightened, unable to find her way back to awareness. Jake called out to her, not with words, but with feelings of warmth and protection. Princess Zarathel sensed his presence and was amazed. She had thought she was alone in the darkness, but here was the human soldier who had fought beside her. His mind felt strong and steady like an anchor in a storm. Jake extended his consciousness toward her, offering to share his strength. Princess. Zarathel reached back, tentatively afraid that she might hurt him the way the bio-neural overload had hurt her. But his mind was different from Velthari technology. It was warm and flexible, able to adapt to her alien thought patterns. Their minds touched, and suddenly the darkness was filled with light. Jake felt Princess Zarathel's memories flowing through him while she experienced his own past. They saw each other's fears and hopes and dreams without any barriers between them. Princess Zarathel saw Jake's memories of growing up on a frontier colony where everyone had to work together to survive. She felt his determination to protect others even at the cost of his own safety. She experienced his loneliness as a soldier who had seen too much war. Jake felt Princess Zarathel's memories of royal isolation, where duty always came before personal desires. He experienced her frustration with political games and her longing for genuine friendship. He felt her fear that she would never be allowed to choose her own path in life. But most importantly, they both felt something they had never experienced before. Complete acceptance from another person. Jake did not care that Princess Zarathel was alien royalty. Princess Zarathel did not care that Jake was a human warrior. They saw each other as they truly were and found that they fit together perfectly. The connection stabilized, and Princess Zarathel's consciousness began to return to normal awareness. The patterns on her skin grew brighter as her bio-neural pathways healed with Jake's human adaptability, supporting the damaged areas. She opened her eyes and looked directly at Jake. Through their new mental link, she felt his relief and joy at seeing her awake. Without thinking about royal protocol or political consequences, she reached up and touched his face. "Thank you," she whispered. "I felt you calling me back." Jake smiled and covered her hand with his own. "I promised we would face this together." Dr. Amy Foster checked the medical readings and shook her head in amazement. "Bio-neural function is returning to normal. Brain activity is stronger than before the injury. Whatever you did, it worked, Ambassador." Lyreley nodded with satisfaction. "The bond is complete and stable. You are now connected for life." Over the following days, Princess Zarathel recovered her strength, while she and Jake learned to live with their permanent mental connection. They could feel each other's emotions and share thoughts across any distance. The patterns on her skin now sometimes reflected Jake's feelings as well as her own. The Velthari High Council was not pleased when they learned about the bonding, but they could not argue with the results. Princess Zarathel was not only healed, but her bio-neural abilities were stronger than ever. The connection with Jake's human consciousness had given her new ways of thinking about problems. Commander Luna Blackwood used the success of the battle to negotiate a formal alliance between all three species. The Treaty of Haven's Rest established joint colonies and shared technology programs. Humans would provide adaptability and determination. Velthari would contribute bio-neural integration systems. Elves would offer ancient wisdom and unique perspectives. Dr. Amy Foster was chosen to head the new Interspecies Research Institute. Her work on creating connections between different technologies had proven invaluable during the crisis. Princess Zarathel accepted her role as ambassador between species while maintaining her position as heir to the Velthari throne. Her unique bond with Jake made her the perfect bridge between human and alien perspectives. Jake was promoted to admiral and given command of the new integrated defense fleet. Ships from all three species now worked together, using the coordination methods developed during the battle with the Nexus. On the observation deck of Haven's Rest Station, Princess Zarathel and Jake stood together, watching the construction of the first joint colony ship. Through their mental link, they shared the satisfaction of seeing their peoples working together in peace. The patterns on Princess Zarathel's skin glowed with soft silver and gold spirals, showing contentment and love. She no longer tried to hide her feelings because she had found someone who accepted her completely. Jake put his arm around her shoulders and felt her happiness through their connection. He had found something he had never expected in the darkness of war. Not just love, but partnership with someone who understood him perfectly. Ambassador Lyrelay joined them on the observation deck. The ancient prophecies spoke of a time when different species would unite against a common threat. But they also predicted that such unity would only be possible through bonds of genuine affection between individuals. Princess Zarathel leaned against Jake's shoulder, feeling completely at peace for the first time in her life. I struggled so hard to stay composed when we first met. I thought showing my feelings would be a sign of weakness. Jake smiled and kissed the top of her head. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let someone else see who you really are.